Ikki Kurigane, out on a morning run. In between steps he remembers his youth when his former sword master tells him to always remember how weak he was. Cutting back to the present, Ikki begins when we cut to the principal's office. We see our protagonist attempting to explain his thought process only to be threatening to make this peeping incident international if Ikki does not end his own life. Our protagonist brushes it off as a simple accident. Having heard this, Stella begins to manifest fire as him, reasoning she's simply returning the favor for him peeping on her. Stellar to fulfill is to become his friend. The next day we see Stellar has joined Ikki on his morning workout. Getting flustered when our protagonist offers her to drink out of the same water bottle as him, sharing an indirect kiss. As she gives in, she gets jealous when Ikki mentions that he has a sister, concerned that they are half-blood, but he reassures her they are 100% related by blood. We cut to later that day where Ikki is interrupted walking along the school by a journalist attempting to get his comment on the previous day's battle, with Vermilion willing to seduce him for the scoop. Ikki is cut off when his sister Shizuku calls out his name. Slowly walking up to him, she pounces on him, giving him a French kiss, exclaiming, "It's been so long, brother." Completely caught off guard, Stellar demands what Shizuku is doing to her older brother, with her reasoning that it is a common greeting in other countries. Out of spite, Stellar exclaims that Ikki is actually her master, which causes the little sister to challenge Stellar to a duel over who loves her brother more. They both cause a scene and are dismissed from the principal's office, both heading separate ways. Shizuku meets her male roommate Nagi Arasuan while Stellar meets with Ikki, learning about how his family and relatives don't consider Ikki as part of their family, having cut all ties with him in the past due to his weak magic capabilities. Later that night, Stellar washes Ikki's body as she feels responsible as his slave. The day after, we see Stellar attempting to ask Ikki out on a date only to be interrupted when his younger sister, Shizuku, messages him something similar. Without hesitation, Ikki accepts his younger sister's proposal, oblivious to Stellar's intentions. Funnily enough, on the date, Ikki is joined by not only Shizuku and Stellar but also Nagi, Shizuku's roomie. During the date in the supermarket, Stellar gets extremely jealous when Shizuku holds her brother's hand or when he looks after his younger sister while they're eating. As a break, Nagi and Ikki have a chat in the men's bathroom, getting to know each other only to be interrupted when perpetrators of a crime organization cause havoc, intending on capturing innocent civilians and holding them for cash. Having avoided the villain's attention, using Nagi's concealment technique, worried about Stellar and Shizuku, they both make their ways to the center of the supermarket, where everyone, including the two, have been held captive. After one of the children being held captive acts out, Stellar is forced to reveal her identity when she saves the child from being gunned down. Walking over to the agitated gunman, a robed figure, revealing himself as the leader of the pack, steps up, threatening another innocent life if Stellar doesn't surrender. Stellar, disgusted at this, charges a strike attempting to cut down the figure. Her strike is nullified and in turn receives a blow, sending her onto the ground. Clearly at a disadvantage, Stellar is forced to put on a show if she wants the lives of the civilians to be spared. Buying enough time for Shizuku to cast a water barrier around all the civilians. Waiting for this moment, Ikki drops in on the assailants, crying out, "Ito Shura!" He figures out the best way to deal with the head of pack. Dodging incoming bullets, he makes his way to the leader, severing their arm, rendering them help, but hidden in the civilians was an undercover assailant working with the terrorist group, holding an innocent captive. Just then another student reveals themselves, saving the captive, revealing their existence, everyone noting that his presence was so well hidden. Outside, the mystery student, Kirihara, is revealed to be acquainted with Ikki, insulting Ikki for being weak, chasing a hopeless dream with his magic capabilities. Before heading off, Kirihara reveals he'll be dueling Ikki in the future to determine which of them will have the chance to represent the school in the 7-Star Festival. Coming up to the fight, Stellar catches Ikki not as his usual self as he is watching over Kirihara's past duels. They both note his playstyle as peculiar, as he tends to fight far away whereas Ikki prefers close quarters. On the day of the battle, Kirihara reveals his weapon as a bow, and with that the duel begins. Kirihara at first fires some shots at Ikki, gauging his strength, taunting Ikki by uncloaking and cloaking himself. Kirihara then begins increasing the strength of each arrow along with their speed, aiming at vital areas. Constantly mocking Ikki with each shot he lands, bringing Ikki to the ground slumped. The crowd collectively insults the rank F Ikki, only for Stellar to roar, shutting up the crowd and inspiring Ikki to get back up. As Ikki concentrates, he cries Itu Shura, honing his senses to solely track the incoming arrows. With the shock of the crowd and Kirihara, our protagonist is able to catch an incoming arrow. With each arrow fired by Kirihara, Ikki is able to dismantle each and every one of them. As Ikki is able to pinpoint where the arrows are coming from, he dashes towards Kirihara's location. As a last resort, Kirihara releases a storm of arrows which in turn leaves him wide open. Ikki deflects and destroys several arrows, raising his sword and finally knocking out Kirihara simply by thrusting his sword next to him. As a reward for winning the duel, Stellar rewards Ikki with a kiss as they embrace. With his newfound popularity, various students admire him as he had been able to defeat Kirihara, one of the finalists of the Seven Sword Festival finalist. Ikki even promises to mentor several of them, teaching them how to get stronger. Changing scenes to a swimming pool, we see Stellar having reached her boiling point, with other people drawing Ikki's attention. Claiming Ikki for herself, she gives him a kiss. On the bus ride home, they hold hands as both Ikki and Stellar find out her next opponents are both student council members. Having easily dispatched their respective opponents on the way to Ikki's classes, they notice a stalker revealed to be the shy Ace Ayatusji. Inviting Ace to join one of Ikki's classes, Ikki gives pointers on how she should position her stance and wield her blade based on some of her initial strikes. Grateful for the help, she invites him out for dinner, with Stellar tagging along. During their meal, they're interrupted as the delinquent, Kuroto, only for Ikki to draw attention away from the girls only to receive a bottle shattered over his head. Shaking off the incident, Ikki acknowledges that even without the underhanded tactics Kuroto used, Ikki may not be able to best this delinquent in a duel. Later that night, talking to Ace about the incident, both are told they'll be fighting with each other, only for Ace to let Ikki know of her past and how she lost her father's dojo to the delinquent Kuranudo whilst her father had been in a coma. Having lost a duel to Kuranudo during the start of the duel, due to her situation, she uses underhanded means to duel Ikki to prove her strength to her father. Persevering, Ikki, knowing her tricks, still is able to defeat her and help her see the light and help her obtain her father's dojo back. The next day, Ikki challenges the delinquent Kuroto to a duel. Ikki having a rising reputation, Kuroto instantly accepts, knowing he would not lose and putting the dojo on the line. Dashing forward, Kuroto forces Ikki to collide swords. Ikki swings his blade from the side, attempting to catch the delinquent off guard, and is met with a parry of the enemy's blade. Figuring something is off, Ikki goes on the defensive as Kuroto begins to unleash a barrage with Ikki with no choice to parry and defend. Seeing an opening, Ikki slashes at the delinquent's midsection only for him to react, contorting back and evading the slash completely. With that, Ikki figures out the key behind his instance abilities. It's all due to his abnormal reaction. People normally have 0.3 seconds before they can react, but our delinquent has an instance 0.05 second reaction time. Continuing his barrage, Kuroto corners Ikki, making him slip up. Having no other option, Ikki begins to set a trap, slowly evading and repositioning until he has an opportunity to use Aya's father techniques. All compressed into a single moment, Ikki is able to force Kuroto to concede the dojo and hence loses the duel. Returning the dojo back to Ace and her now awoken father. In the following days, Ikki and Stellar both get lost on a camping trip. Having a fever due to it getting dark and having rained, Ikki takes the weak Stellar to a nearby log cabin where they dry off their clothes and chat. Amidst their conversation, they're ambushed with a weakened Stellar. Ikki must fend off the attacker all by himself. As he's become overwhelmed, the current student council finds and assists them. With the student council captain, Tudu Tuka, revealing herself, flashing across the field and eliminating all pursuers. Elsewhere, Shizuku's been notified that Tudu Tuka is her. Upon the start of Shizuku's and Toka's duel, Shizuku attempts to displace Tuka with various ice techniques. With each ice and water technique being thrown at Tuka, Tuka simply evades with her lightning reflexes or her lightning-infused slashes to nullify incoming projectiles. Beginning to turn the tides, Tuka forces Shizuku to release her ultimate technique. Enshrouding the area in a cold mist, she is able to create clones of herself. Believed to have found an opening while slipping around Tuka, Shizuku rushes in only to be cut down by Toka's blade, hence ending the duel in favor of the student council president. Hearing about the news of the failed knight Ikki, people seeking his downfall accuse him of being immoral with a princess. He's forced to continue school under the surveillance of these committee members. Hence until the final he'll be put through hell, being isolated with no contact, 100% under surveillance, and only let out of cell to duel for the Seven Stars Festival. Whilst being treated poorly and slowly losing sanity, the only thing keeping him sane and alive is the trust that Stellar is waiting for him when he emerges victorious. With Ikki completing all the battles assigned to him, he is at his final with. Tasked with a final duel against the strongest student, Ikki must fight the student council president. With everything stacked against him, Ikki finally begins to crumble. Having been forced to mindlessly make it to the arena himself, he begins to falter. His past self egging him to give up as his feet begin to be weighed down by his past. He is surprisingly enlightened by the silhouettes of all his friends and foes waiting outside the arena for his timely arrival. Just like that, the duel begins. Within a split second upon the duel starting, Ikki and Tuka both charge at one another, both planning to slay the other in a single strike, but with everyone behind Ikki, he is able to surpass Tuka by a fraction of a second, shattering her blade and winning the duel. Ikki asks Stellar to be his girlfriend officially now that he is strong enough to publicly be worthy of her love in the public. That's the end. Like, comment and subscribe. Thanks so much.